Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Dying Time is here. That's right, we're talking about Fright Night on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from Corvallis, Iowa? Question mark? This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we are dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. We're going to unpack all the goriest of details of 1985's Fright Night in the hopes that a young high schooler's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we can make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person I trust, that if I turn into a dog and then I slowly turn back into a human as I die, she'll let me just lay out on the fucking living room rug to bleed. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
How dare you? I would absolutely put you out of your misery. Also, quite frankly, I think that if we're making comparisons, I am almost certainly the evil end to your Charlie.
Well, you know what? I can kind of believe you're obviously shorter than I am. So the height differences, the Mutt and Jeff of it all seems to work out. But I also, you know, since it's well established that I podcast in the nude, would it be weird if people found me that way, ultimately?
Weird, but also, you know, he would want it that way.
Well, here's the thing, Gina. I don't want to scare you, but we are not alone. That's right. We have a special guest. Now, you know her as a TV writer and an author whose novel, The Survivalists, which is excellent, is out right now. The one, the only, Kashana Cauley. How are you doing today, Kashana?
I'm doing great. Thanks. How are you?
I'm excellent, and I'm so excited to have you on the show. It's kind of a little dream come true. I think you're incredibly funny in a way I don't know that I will ever be funny. You're just very smart, and you write damn good jokes, and I love reading you, but I'm also secretly jealous of how good you are at it.
Why, thank you. You don't see all the dark stuff, like me just throwing out thousands of pages because things don't work.
Hey, I'm a writer myself. I promise you, I'm throwing out thousands of pages as well. Or CNN is telling me that's not the way we want our talent to come across in this ridiculous fucking promo that I'm writing. Anyways, I don't know that those promos will be out yet. I promise you, the internet will hate them. That's the future. Now, today is Fright Night 1985. So, Kashana, what was your first time, engaging with the vampire comeback that is Fright Night?
I saw it for the first time a few months ago.
Oh, okay.
Wanted to see something that was different than the usual. I mostly watch comedies and a very tiny bit of horror, mostly old school stuff. But I really like this. To be honest, this is a funny movie.
It is.
I was dying. The blood budget. My God.
Tom Holland, the director and writer here, has his both toes in comedy and horror at all times. I feel like what he did not like about the movie that sort of pushed him to want to direct that came before this, which I'm probably pretty sure no one but Gina and I have seen, is a film called Scream for Help. And have you ever heard of that, Kashana?
No.
Okay.
Keep it that way.
It is not intentionally funny. It is, in fact, funny, but not intentionally. It's the director also made the original Death Wish. And it is, Gina, is this not Scream for Help, but with a vampire in it?
It is, but also 90% less sleazy.
Right. Well, I think that comes with not having the director of Death Wish attached to it, who I think he just oozes sleaze as a part of his being. That's just what he brings to the table, whereas Tom Holland has a lighter touch. That experience went so badly after he had done very well with Psycho 2, another excellent film that that weirdly enough has great comedy in it. He, convinces Columbia, who wants to make this script, I want to direct it because I don't want someone to fuck it up. And they're like, fine, you can do it. But this is the cheapest movie we're going to make all year. If you stay at this budget, we won't touch it in the end. And so it was the least expensive movie that Columbia made that year. And it ended up making 3 times the amount it costs to make. And so everyone yelled, yay, in late summer, because it did reasonably well at an odd time at the box office. I'll open it up to the floor. This opened at number 3. Can you guess what was number 1 at the box office in the first weekend of August 1985?
Back to the Future?
Back to the Future was number 1. It was its 5th week. It had been number 2 the week before and leapt right back up into the number 1 slot. And I believe it remained there, whereas Fright Night kind of lingered in the top 5 and stayed in theaters for a long time, bleeding into the spooky season. But this did well. It hung around. It had legs, as movies did back then. Number 2 was National Lampoon's European Vacation, a movie I do not enjoy. It's filled with funny people doing unfunny bits as everyone struggles to remember what was funny about the first one. And they think, I don't know, cameos? And they just like throw Monty Python vets at the screen. Just like anyone with the vaguest bit of comedy cred who has a United Kingdom passport, just throw them into this movie. Anyways, let's get back into a much better film, and that is Fright Night. I saw this on home video because I was not allowed to see scary movies at this moment in time. I caught up to it when I finally ended up working in video stores. What about you, Gina? I'm sure you were dropped off by your parents and they said, we'll pick you up on Tuesday. If I'm remembering correctly about your childhood.
Not quite. I did not see this in the theater. I believe I saw this on cable, and I got to say, I was 14 when I saw it, and this is the movie that made me a woman.
Oh, we finally nailed it, everybody. Now, you were very happy with the amount of pretty boy content in Lost Boys, as we all should.
Yes.
It's full of hunky boys with hunky boy wells that they go to and they look into. Whereas Fright Night is not a bastion of traditionally hot men, except this one glowing sun at the center of it.
Yes.
Perhaps the hottest man who's ever worn a sweater continuously through a movie. At the center of this, our vampire this is like incredible. Chris Sarandon is fucking hot in this movie.
Yeah, I mean he is, and when I mentioned in the Lost Boys, when we did the Lost Boys episode, like I was kind of stunned that he was about my dad's age. and I'm like, oh, I'm not supposed to be feeling certain ways about someone my dad's age.
And yet, the way he fills out a sweater just makes people tingly. I think
the way he manhandles a lady on the dance floor. Yeah, this would have gotten me kicked out of middle school if I tried to pull this maneuver in 1985. I'll tell you that right now. There's very little Jesus between them on the dance floor.
He really knows how to rock an 80s haircut, too. I had also actually just seen Dog Day Afternoon, where he knows how to rock a 70s haircut. And he transitions well to the 80s. He does that nice, fluffy, layered thing. He rocks that.
Yeah, he has volume. He has that we love, particularly here on Kill My Kill. A performer who's got hair volume just lets it all hang out. And Sarandon's just one of those guys. I think he was too weird to be a leading guy, but he's also way too handsome to just be a character actor. And yet throughout the 80s, he gets thrust into these roles where I think only he can make this sort of thing work. In Princess Bride, only he can really pull off that character. It's
he's obviously haughty, but he's completely hot. And, he's just a man-child. But also he does have skills, weirdly enough. He's not without his merits. He just, wants to sacrifice a lady to start a war. Who amongst us hasn't? And then the follow-up to this is another Tom Holland movie, Child's Play, which I don't think he gets enough credit for because he's coming in like 4th or 5th place in terms of the wildest thing you see on screen. But he has a fight with a Chucky puppet in a car that's legitimately terrifying. If you can make a fight with a puppet seem scary, you have chops.
But yeah, he's just got, you're right though, that he's a little too weird because, he always has this very sinister vibe to him.
Yes.
Like he's not going to play like even though he's dressed like a suburban dad with the soft sweaters and all in this, he's not a convincing suburban dad.
Which brings me to one of my first big questions before we just get into the whole plot of it all, which I don't know if this is a thing that we need to recount the whole plot of because it's very basic. But when it comes down to it, is this a smart idea if you're a vampire? You're like, big city, there's a lot going on. It's a lot of tall glass buildings where sun pours in all the time. Not a lot of dank basements for me. What if I move to the burbs? What if I get out of the rat race when I become a rat and, find a nice dank basement to chill out in? But the suburban, like he's there for a grand total of an hour and a half before he's found out.
Well, it's like you're going to move to like suburban Iowa with your houseboy. And not worry about drawing attention.
Yeah, in 1985, it's going to unfortunately, raise the eyebrows of your neighbors, despite the fact that's where I think the remake of this, the 2009 to 2011, I can't even remember.
I have not seen that yet.
It's decent. It is absolutely a decent film. And I think the one thing it solves, where it kind of like avoids the issue a little bit, is that it takes place in the aftermath of the real estate bubble burst in a Las Vegas, suburb where the majority of the homes sit empty because the people who owned those homes did not have the money to pay for them. And so they're kind of in the middle. They're in what would be a populous area that no longer has people in it. And you're like, oh, well, I'm sorry, all those people lost their homes, but at least this makes sense. Whereas I feel this particular, I do A plus B equals $, $$ equaling blood. This is just, he's barely in this town before he is caught bringing a coffin into his own home.
He's bringing a coffin. He's like getting naked with ladies in front of an open window.
Yes.
He's not like, he must be able to see that Charlie can see him. Like, they're like right across the street from each other.
Right.
He's like killing women in the house. They're screaming. He's not doing anything about like, making sure they don't make any noise. It's like, you sure you don't want to get caught there, Jerry?
Yeah. Part of him wants to be seen. Like this is so odd that so many of the movies that we're covering this year are like bouncing ideas off of one another, because this has a little bit of body double going on to it. It has that little bit of Shadow of the Doubt going on with it, and Rear Window. It's a riff on all of those things and Scream for Help, because there's part of this movie you could see they could have gone the direction of William Ragsdale, like, oh, I need to stop my mom from banging the vampire next door. And this movie is like, oh, we're not interested in middle-aged moms.
But she's interested in him though. My favorite, one of my favorite scenes is when how he gets invited to the house and the mom's like, oh, Jerry.
I was cheering for her. I was like, come on, you want this.
She was just all aflutter.
Yeah, this is the most action she's got since that one episode where Geraldo tried to open up the bank vault of Capone. Because when else are you going to have this dude so smoking hot just wander into your house in Corvallis, Iowa, I might add, which this was not filmed in Corvallis, Iowa. There is no such thing as Corvallis, Iowa. And the only reason we know it is because there's one shot with a deed that shows us that it's Corvallis, Iowa. But otherwise, it's quote unquote any town, USA. Kashana, where did you grow up in terms of, did you grow up in a city, in suburbia, in the country? Where is your background with all that?
I'm from Madison, Wisconsin originally. It's the kind of city that like wants to be a suburb, but isn't quite getting there because I knew people who grew up in actual suburbs and they had less to do.
Yes. Plus, it's a college town. So it's got all that college town energy that's running through it. And it's like the one town in all the Midwest that's like, what's your thing? And you're like, public education. And they're like, this is what we love, is public education. My mother-in-law was the principal at a high school in Madison, Wisconsin for many years.
Which high school?
Not East, not West.
Memorial?
Memorial, yes.
What was her name? I went to Memorial.
Oh my God. All right. Pam.
You don't have to go there.
Pam Nash.
Oh, I totally met her. That's insane.
Okay.
I remember her name. She was around. Yep.
Yes. She was the vice principal for a long time, then became principal.
That's hilarious.
Yes. I'm married to her daughter, and I love her very, very much. Pam Nash is one of the best people in the entire world. But yes, I'm very, very familiar with Madison, Wisconsin. But so this is not like, you can kind of envision this scenario in Madison, right? In those houses that are a little too old, but they've put a fresh coat of paint on them on the east side, where people think they're being hip, that sort of deal.
But also dead of winter, there's nothing to do. Why not check out the cool vampire next door?
Right.
What's he into?
There's still a nightclub in town they could go to that it's reasonable that they would come across. Whereas this movie was actually filmed on a couple different lots here in town. One was a Columbia lot that is now owned by Amazon. And the houses were on the old Disney lot in Burbank, which were flattened to make the DreamWorks campus. And God knows, I mean, I'm in the industry. I don't even fucking know if they exist anymore. So, but these houses were used in a ton of, goofy Disney movies like That Darn Cat! ! And The Shaggy DA. The suburbanite element of it is where this really stands out, because you're coming into this in a desert of vampire activity. After 1979, Sex on a Stick Dracula, where they have disco sex, and then Love at First Bite, which kind of kills off the gothic vampire. There's just a nothing space for vampirism in the early 80s. And so in the horror boom of the time, it was slasher time. Like it was just slashers and, fun weirdness. And where I think the break happens, where I think where Holland gets the itch here, is a movie we've yet to discuss because the director is a criminal. And that's An American Werewolf in London. And that just shows you can make a gothic horror creature into something modern. And I feel there's a vein of American Werewolf in this. Do you agree, Gina? Because it's doing all of the blattery effects that, Werewolf and Howling really bring to the forefront. And John Carpenter's The Thing is just too gross for many audiences. The world will catch up to it, but it's too much. So when people are thinking like, how can I make these monster effects into something that people will go see? where, vampire's a place to go, but they hadn't really been presented in this outrageous a manner as we're seeing here. Even a film we haven't covered, but we've talked about a lot, or the TV version of Salem's Lot, still keeps a very gothic Nosferatu like vampire at the center of it. Whereas this is not afraid to upset the apple cart when it comes to how a vampire can be presented. He is sexy. He can show up with too many fucking teeth in his mouth. And that becomes the central point of the advertising campaign for the movie is, hey, what's that cloud with way too many teeth in it? It's Fright, I guess. Kashana, have you ever been frightened by the idea of a cloud with teeth?
I'm not a big fan of teeth outside their natural environments. I can't say that I dreamed that one up in particular, but I can't say that I want to see it on the street.
Now, I don't think anyone wants to see it in the street. The only place we're really presented with it for the most part is in the cinema. And of course, the last time I was confronted with a cloud with teeth, it was the Green Lantern movie, in which the central villain at one point is a space cloud with too many teeth that sucks out your skeleton. And that was the villain.
If you told me you were making all that up, I would absolutely believe you either way.
Same.
I cannot tell you how hard it was. Now, this was one of those times where you know somebody and he's like, I'm going to go see this tonight on the lot. Do you want to come? And I'm like, of course I want to see. What I'm hearing is a terrible movie in near private. And then we show up and he looks around and goes, shit. I'm like, what? He goes, all the executives are here. And I watched that movie through my fingers like I was in The Shining because I was afraid I was going to laugh at what are some of the most ridiculous fucking things you've ever seen in your life, including a space skeleton with too many fucking teeth. That's Patrick's little Hollywood adventure for everybody. So, in terms of how this movie lays out in terms of characters, we have to start at the beginning and talk about You're So Cool, Charlie Brewster, played by William Ragsdale, a Archie comic given the breath of life by a Green Fairy.
He is very much a believable dork.
Yes. I was talking about it briefly with Becky because, Ollie's kind of reached that age where we're peppering him with horror along the way to see how he goes. And she goes, oh, you should watch that with Ollie. And I said, well, I want to watch it again first because from what I remember, the lead character is one of the horniest people ever put on film.
Is he though?
He's both horny to the point of being aggressive, but also so distracted by anything else that you're wondering, is he being led around by his penis or he just has too many hormones to operate normally?
I mean, he's kind of just more horny for horror, I think, because he's just like straight up ignoring his girlfriend for this late night horror show hosted by an elderly gentleman.
Right. Yes. Well, that's where we get into another element of this movie. And I'm sure that I'm going to recommend some places if people want to explore this more fully, because might not necessarily be our lane. But this movie, while not intentionally, is just very queer.
Well, if you're talking about like the whole scene with Jerry and Evil Ed, absolutely. I don't know if you can call that subtext. That's just text. That's just text.
Yes. Yes, but I don't know that it's Tom Holland's idea of text, or that the film, which just canonically features several actors who happen to be gay. So that's just going to creep into it. And obviously the sequence with Evil Ed is a seduction between two men. So yeah, that's going to be inherently queer. But throughout, Williams Ragsdale is kind of like, all I want to do is have sex. And then he sees a gay man, swish his way out of a coffin. He's like, hold on, babe. Something's just come up.
Well, do you think that Jerry and his houseboy, are in fact lovers, or is he just like, the houseboy and like his familiar?
I think that is an inherently loving relationship on some level, if not entirely sexual. There is a sexual element to it.
He's kind of his Renfield.
Yes. Yeah. I was thinking that too, because I just read Silver Nitrate by Sylvia Moreno Garcia.
Yes. What about
and also her vampire book, and she goes deep on Renfelds. And yeah, he has that Renfeld vibe. Like, he's helpful. They have a loving relationship, but he's also there to just do discrete tasks. He's got a role.
It's worship, right? Like, Jerry is to a certain degree a living God. There aren't many things that can actually fell him, and his abilities are numerous. When he wants, smoke just appears. Very few of us can claim that you can emit fog that looks cool on camera. Certainly, my teenager emits a fog I don't care for, and he tends to wait until he's in our bedroom to emit it. But it's not, to date, as cool as his hair is, not as cool as Jerry. But he's got a lot going on. So, does Billy have like a worship of this? Like, he's serving him hand and foot, day in, day out. His needs are not number one. Jerry's needs are number one. He smiles at me when I give him an apple. There's a whole thing going on there. But Billy also seems to be, when he comes, he likes to invade your space bubble. There are times when he approaches Charlie and he's just right up in his face, smiling with a menace, but also an invitation. Like, what you gonna do about it? I'm fine either way.
Right.
Charlie, is unsure. And I have to believe, like, there's the meta interpretation of what's happening with Amanda Bierce's character, Amy. Within the scope of the movie, I don't believe that Amy has gone all the way with Charlie for one very specific and good reason. And that is, Charlie is untrustworthy. So are you going to sleep with somebody you don't fully trust? And to date, she has not. And also, she should be congratulated for that.
Well, yes.
When she is confronted with an opportunity to finally have a very bloody orgasm in a firelit room on a very lovely rug, she goes for it because, in my mind, Jerry at least has been doing this for a while. And if you're going to give it up, I would choose Jerry. I'll be honest with you. I don't trust Charlie with intimacy, but Jerry, I'm just going to get lost in those eyes and that very full curly hairdo he's got going on. Just lift that sweater. And I was going to say,
just petting that soft sweater for a little while. Like a little kitten, like a sexy kitten.
Yeah. Absolutely. Whereas, Amy's really between a rock and a hard place. All it takes is a guy on TV or two guys with a big piece of wood between them down on the ground. And Charlie is just so distracted he could care less. And you were about to give it up.
Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Shopify is there to help you grow. Shopify helps you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, and sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. What I love about Shopify is how no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., and Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
That's true. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how much, actual chemistry two teenagers have between each other, but like they have no chemistry, and Jerry has chemistry with a lot of chemistry with both of them.
Right. Yes. Jerry at one point has chemistry with a large stick sticking out of his chest. He grabs it and you're like, I'm here for this. He's given the performance of a fucking lifetime. On the flip side of that, in the meta narrative, Amanda Pierce is a gay woman who obviously at the time is being forced to play very heteronormative roles. And I think that works to the advantage of this character. She just doesn't look at, she's like, Charlie's a cute puppy, but like how fucking serious can you be about this puppy?
Right.
Now, Kashana, I'm not going to force you to reveal anything about your life, but I'm sure at some point in your high school age, you were surrounded by, if not several Charlie Brewsters.
Yeah, I mean, we were full of geeks. It was, a university town. All the guys were geeky. Studying was kind of hip.
Right. So
that was kind of what was on offer.
Just heading over to the Chili's by the West Town Mall and I'm just going to pepper this with Madison, Wisconsin references for your enjoyment and the enjoyment of our Madison audience, which I'm sure is vast.
We were Denny's people. So it was like staring deeply into someone's eyes over a frozen Oreo pie. That was our journey.
Yes. But I do want to mention, just briefly before we get off of Charlie and Amy, because they're not really on each other very much, but in the lead up to us meeting them, we're hearing this vampire movie that's playing on Fright Night. And the ADR kissing noises are like someone is trying to suck a golf ball through a hose.
Oh yeah, that's great. It's great. It's so funny.
It sounds like someone is trying to suck out snake poison out of someone's leg in the Wild West. It's just those are not kissing noises, but okay. I was also thrilled to learn that the pachinko machine that is in Charlie's bedroom that's leaning up against the wall, I own that pachinko machine. Now, do I believe it to be the exact pachinko machine in the movie? No. Is it the exact make and model? Absolutely yes.
Were you ever, did anybody ever grab you by the throat and you started kicking it while you were struggling to escape?
If someone's grabbing me by the throat, Gina, I'm not struggling to escape. Thank you very much.
You're just gonna be like, well, I've had a good run. X's over the eyes.
Or sometimes when we touch my throat, the honesty's too much. What are you gonna do?
I mean, I guess with Sherry Dan, you're just kind of like, just melting into his arms.
Yeah. Like what? Do I want to be somewhere else? He's looking me in the eyes, and his eyes are red golf balls shoved into his head, and yet it still works. I don't know. I'm into it. Now we love a quote unquote movie teenager's bedroom on this show. We have been presented with a bevy of weirdness put into bedrooms over the course of this show's 8 years. I don't think we've ever come across a skier/car guy. This is the first time I've seen one of these bedrooms where I'm like, no, all of this kind of makes sense, Gina.
Yeah, it's a very, blandly generic bedroom for a blandly generic teenager.
I mean, he is trying to make out with a girl, and on his bed are a pair of track shoes. Used track shoes. What woman, nay girl, is going to allow this to continue? Like, put those in a fucking closet, not where we sleep / where you want to fuck. That is not okay.
It felt like they were playing 80s teenagers paint by numbers with the decor. I kept thinking, oh, this is almost like Back to the Future. And oh, this is almost like Ferris Bueller's Day Off in terms of how they populate what they're into.
Yeah, I agree with you. And yet there's no topicality to this. Whereas Back to the Future and Ferris Bueller they're up to the moment. They're trying to be as hip as they possibly can in that pocket. Nothing about this bedroom reeks, I've turned on a radio. This kid doesn't know on the dial where MTV is. He's into 3 things: trying to get laid with Amy and failing, skiing, and cars. That's it based on this. He just doesn't have a lot of oomph. There's not a lot of cultural rev happening.
Yeah, you would think that considering how much of his character is based in being like a horror guy, that he would have like a bunch of horror movie posters on his walls.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's where it kind of gets a little bit. This is an interesting take on something that becomes a bit of a mini genre within 80s horror and then leaks out from there. And that is, wherefore art thou the monster kids, right? He's a monster kid. He's just too old to have his, paint by numbers models on his shelf. And the monster kid will come up again and again and again, whether it's the Lost Boys or Monster Squad. The monster kids revolution sort of starts and ends in the late 80s. And yet he's so into watching his late night horror host that he cannot think about sex after.
Like where's the cardboard cutout of Elvira? I feel like there needs to be a cardboard cutout of Elvira in there.
Well, here's the thing. Like, we're not asking for reality Earth, but Elvira is a very LA thing in 1985. That is my horror host growing up, was Elvira. She was a groundling. She fucking rules. And I didn't grow up with a different horror host. So when I see these sort of old guy with gray paint in his hair sort of horror host, I'm kind of like, I believe it exists, but I don't quite get it. Gino, did you have a horror host in Jersey?
I did. She was out of Philadelphia. She was basically like the poor man's Elvira. Her name was Stella.
Stella.
The monster from Manayunk.
Oh, okay. That is very local reference.
Oh, I'm sorry. The man-eater from Manayunk.
Oh, well, that makes even more sense.
But yeah, she was. It was basically just like Elvira's shtick. Just sure. I'm surprised they didn't get sued.
I mean, Elvira got sued by Vampira, who said, "You're taking my shtick," and she's like, "Nobody remembers you." That was very easy to fix for her. Kashana, did you have a horror host there in Wisconsin?
I remember bits and pieces of Elvira, but I think I might be younger than you two, because I don't think she was a thing. We had kind of gone into softer horror. We were Addams Family kids.
Oh, so there you go. Yeah, I mean, that was my only exposure to horror for a certain point, because my parents were extremely restrictive in terms of what media I consumed, but they really weren't on what I was watching at 4 p.m. on Channel 9 locally. So I could sneak up a small antenna TV and be able to watch Elvira. And that's the only way to watch Elvira, is on a screen that's about the size of your iPhone. So in terms of how the movie lays out, once Charlie discovers that something has gone awry, it's just a comedy of errors of him being constantly embarrassed and called out about peeping on people. And so, Gina, once again, we got a dude who's kind of into being the peeper. He doesn't know how to mind his own fucking business.
He is. And what I was going to also bring up is he, also has a lot of elements of Jonathan Harker, in which, he he's kind of useless.
Yes.
He's definitely a drip. And the first time an exotic, more masculine man steps in, his girlfriend's like, who? Who are you again?
New landline, who dis?
Exactly.
Sir? Yes, I think that is an excellent observation. This is a Jonathan Harker as main character sort of movie where we'd love to think that Charlie is the kind of person we would love to be. And he's more like, well, honestly, if we're being honest, kind of more the person I am is
I mean,
nobody
watching this movie, nobody's favorite character is Charlie.
No, I would love to meet that person. What must they be like? Whereas
I'm gonna guess they have a bedroom just decorated in skiing cars theme.
The most general poster art that has ever been, and a neon Coors beer sign. Oh my God.
At the same time, I could imagine identifying with him so strongly, though. I just remember that period of teenage geekiness so well. Not really knowing what you're into. Maybe, not having a favorite hobby, all the mix of the stuff, not knowing how to interact, not knowing how to hook up.
I do think in more modern interpretations of this, or certainly in anything that evokes it. So let's take your Disturbia, for example. They kind of go out of their way to make sure that that lead kid, while a dork and while socially awkward, is just secretly cool. All he needs is this one opportunity to sort of explode out of the eggshell he's in, and then he comes out the other side, ripped and hot, and they know what to do in bed. Whereas I don't ever believe that for a second with Charlie. He is a dorcas from the minute go. He's nothing but pure dork. And at the end of this, he remains a dork who happened to live through something traumatic. He does not become cool.
No. Now, I mean, it's possible. I've not seen Fright Night 2. Have you?
I have seen Fright Night 2. As I said many times on this show before, Fright Night 2 is beloved to me because there's a sequence in which the vampires bowl with decapitated heads in the same bowling alley I had my 8th birthday party.
That's a hard one to find now.
Yes.
I've never seen it.
All
I know is that it involves Jerry's sister, which I'm like, okay.
It's more fun than you think. A lot of the rights are being held up because of the music. And also, it was one of the movies where its rights are tied up with a little kerfluffle in local news called the Menendez brothers trial. That's right.
Oh, wow.
The Menendez family financed Fright Night 2 when Columbia said, we're good with one. And therefore they made it on the cheap, and there's a lot of people involved. And then that death happened and it all got very murky and no one can untangle it. So the Blu-ray I have of it, I believe I got from Argentina. It's one of those. Now, I think it would be remiss here if we did not discuss one Evil Ed Thompson, played by Stephen Jeffries.
I love Evil Ed so much. I love Evil Ed. Like honestly, the first time that I saw Evil Ed, I'm like, finally, it's the character that represents me.
A cackling wiener finally gets their moment in the sun.
Exactly.
He's one of those things it is released once they become a vampire, and you're kind of like, okay, I see who that person really is.
Oh, he's having the time of his life. That's why I love him. When he's like fucking taunting Charlie, oh, your dinner is in the oven. I love every minute of that. It's just, I love it so much.
It is just such an interesting, evocative performance from an actor who they tried to make a thing,
because he's so weird looking. He's like this kind of like very elfin kind of kind of guy. And I've seen pictures of him recently. He's got to be like in his late 50s. He's still like an elfin looking guy. It's very odd.
And I'm sure it didn't help that he was a queer actor in 1985 Hollywood. Like it's not really helping your case. Now, I would encourage the audience to do their own research when it comes to Stephen Joffrey's. Just make sure you got safe search on. But there's an opportunity there for someone like 1985 didn't have enough twinks, and Stephen Jeffries is giving us hardcore twink energy.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I am absolutely here for, and again, to bring it back to your comparison to An American Wolf in London, there's a lot of elements to, or to say a lot of similarities between his character and the character of Jack, who is, the wisecracking sidekick who basically returns from the dead to taunt the main character some more, which I absolutely love that. That is me. That is the character I'm going to be in a horror movie. Not making it alive to the end of the movie, but harassing the main character in any way possible.
Right. Kashana, do you see yourself as someone who could be in a horror movie? Like who do you put yourself in the place of when you think, there's a horror movie going on and I'm self-inserting? Where do you put yourself into it?
The actual vampire hunter guy, Peter Vincent, because he has a plan. I always have a plan. Whether he wants to accept money for his services or go in there with the cross, I like a person with a plan. That's me. Like, I don't know. I would get scared, but I would just go, well, we have to deal with this. Like, what's our 5-point plan?
Right. Roddy McDowall is delivering such an interesting layered performance in this because again, another gay actor who's lived the vast majority of his life in Hollywood in front of cameras. And we can all thank Roddy McDowall for any sort of film preservation pre-Marty Scorsese, because he was the person who was out there buying old prints and storing them properly. He just led a very interesting layered life, and his presence on film always brings with it complexity. He has both the desperation of someone who was a big deal and is no longer, and sort of that survivalist spine of someone who's been freelancing a really long time, where he's like, I believe there is a bigger gig out there for me. And someone says, I have a $500, money bond. And he's like, I'll take it. He knows where the money is, and he knows how to make $1 out of 15 cents in a lot of ways.
I do love that he did this the same year as he did as appearing in the miniseries adaptation of Jackie Collins' Hollywood Wives. I don't know about you, but that's versatility, baby. playing a straight pimp of straight men named Jason Swankel.
Oh my God. Jason Swankel?
Jason Swankel.
That goes in the Hall of Fame, Gina.
I'm obsessed with the miniseries Hollywood Wives.
Now I gotta watch it. That's gotta be streaming somewhere, right?
I believe it is. All 3 parts of it is on YouTube.
Where real entertainment lives, on YouTube. Sure. Kashana, now, had you had a lot of experience with Roddy McDowall in other places? Was this where he had popped for you? What's your history with Roddy?
Oh, I don't have a history with him. I just thought it was amazing. I liked how he sort of vacillated between believing in vampire lore and not, and just doing it for the money. How he could take all those positions on the spectrum.
Yes. Well, he kind of pulls a mini Swankel here. And it's like, if the money requires me to believe in vampires, I will. But also, if I get enough of it, I'm going to walk away from this entirely. And then when he gets into the middle of it, he has that very human reaction of, my name's Paul, and this is between y'all. And he runs out the fucking door. And I'm like, I understand. I get it. You're not really attached to the situation. So when you are confronted with a giant real vampire man and his live-in Renfield, it's like, it's time to beat feet.
Yeah, I do like how when he notices that Jerry doesn't cast a reflection, he's like just totally not cool about how he's like and then like, you know, what's the matter with you? Oh, nothing, I gotta go, bye. Like he just has no chill whatsoever after that moment.
If you worked for a significant portion of your career at Werewolf Incorporated, and you like, there's no werewolves or anything. We just like simulate werewolves. And then one full moon, you confront them. You're like, fuck, seriously? This is the way I find out? Sure, I guess. It's pretty incredible. He was approached to play this after Vincent Price said, nah, I'm good with this role. I think about what Vincent Price would have been in this role, and I think it would have been really fun as hell. But what Roddy McDowall brings to the role is real humanity. The layer of I'm just a guy who just wants to do a job, and I've earned the right to do it, and now they're telling me I'm not cool inough for the Corvallis, Iowa audience.
He sort of brings like, you know, what do you want from me, kid? I'm just cashing a paycheck here, you know, like where I wouldn't buy that Vincent Price wouldn't believe him from the start.
This movie does very well with character actors, and I was delighted at one point to see Art Evans show up in this as Detective Lennox. I love Art Evans. I love his voice. I love how high and gravelly it is. He's just a delight in every movie he shows up in. I love Art Evans.
Yeah, that's a whole good scene.
I also, you know who shows up in this movie I really did not remember is Nick Savage, who, of course, Jana, you and I both know as the world's most unsuccessful biker in Friday the 13th
right.
Part 3.
He's one of the bouncers, isn't he, in the nightclub?
Yes.
Oh,
and
I'll
again,
be darned.
He confronts a monster the exact same way here that he does in Friday the 13th 3D.
And it's also killed for his trouble.
Right. Just walks straight into it. A guy with glowing eyes. The other guy was an undead backwoods mutant. And he's kind of like, have you ever seen a chain before? And he gets his arm ripped off because of it. And he's like, ooh, that hurt. And then he goes away. And in here, he just gets his neck sliced right in half with nails.
Yeah.
His other bouncer pal is a former NFL player. And he gets choked out and thrown halfway across a club dance floor, which, can you imagine what's on the bottom of that floor?
Oh, they're like picking him up and like, ew.
I don't know which is worse, this grown man with a crushed throat or what's on his back now.
But also those two guys look so solid. At a certain point, I'm just like, okay, these vampires are real. They have their shit together. They can throw those guys across the dance floor.
Both those guys have seen some shit. And the fact that they get tossed around like rag dolls is very convincing to the rest of this dance floor, who has not paid attention to anything else that is happening, that now it is time to panic and escape. I tried everything in my power to confirm that this is the same location as the Freddy Goes to Hollywood sequence in Body Double. I don't believe it's true. It's just kind of the same structure, unfortunately. Both are in downtown LA, but not the same place.
Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Shopify is there to help you grow. Shopify helps you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, and sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. What I love about Shopify is how no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., and Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1. All lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Do we wish to discuss the seduction of one evil Ed in one of Los Angeles's many luxurious alleyways?
Oh, that's a great scene. It's so long.
Yes, that is Evil Ed discovering who he is.
Yes. And, he's being offered something that sounds really nice. You're not going to get made fun of anymore. You're not going to be beaten up anymore. You're going to have all the power that you desire and will never have by simply joining Team Vampire, which again is another mouth that Jerry will have to feed after this. And I do have to wonder, is Ed really in this for the long haul? Or if Jerry was successful with his gambit, would he have kept Ed around?
I feel like Ed would draw too much attention. Well, I mean, not that they're not already drawing enough attention themselves as it is, but
yeah.
I mean, I don't think that I don't think that Billy would be too happy about that. I don't know that they but he's in for this polycule thing. I mean, I get it. I wouldn't be either. I mean, it's like so if I was somebody's vampire familiar and they brought up someone else, I'd be like, who the fuck is this? We didn't talk about this. I mean,
right. Yeah,
that's a little prickly too.
I don't see the vibe working.
And then you got to train them and it's a lot of work.
Yes. It's like raising a puppy. They seem cute, but then all of a sudden it's like shitting in your living room and you've had that rug for 10 years and now you have to replace it.
I feel like if anything, his primary purpose is, he can get to Charlie for me.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, while I'm moving in on Amy, I could just set him on Charlie like a little attack dog.
Which is interesting because I hadn't remembered one of the lines that kind of comes out here at one point, where once again we have a vampire who looks at someone from a different age and is like, that reminds me of that lady that I did it with that one time. I think I'm going to risk it all to make that lady a vampire. And it's their undoing every single time.
Yep. Just let it go. Let it go, vampires.
Yeah. Like, wait another 200 years. She'll show up again. If that's how it fucking works. Like, maybe next time it won't be in Podunk, Iowa. And you can get away with it, for Christ's sakes. But here, he just doesn't. Like, this is going to be controversial. But I'm just going to come out and say it. I think Jerry Dandridge is a sex idiot. Right? He is great at the sex. He's great at the vampire, but he's not a planner, No. He's not someone you want to settle down with in Iowa because he's going to fuck it up. He's there a week and he's dead. God knows how long he lived until this point. And he bit it in Iowa. Holy shit. He's going to be the laughing stock. Like, yeah, he was hot. He was the hottest vampire I ever met.
Really knew how to wear a sweater.
And then, so that brings us to his seduction of Amanda on the dance floor, which, as we mentioned earlier, like, if you finally wanted to see what it's like to make love up in that club, this is it. This is what I think that would be like. That you're sexing it so good in the middle of a dance floor and nobody cares. Because why wouldn't you? Look at the neckline on that dude's sweater. He's hot.
That's what they say when they call it the forbidden dance.
There is so much grabbing at Amanda Bierce and her going, do I like that? Right, do I like that? I can't. There's part of me that likes it. Part of me that's like, no, but part of me likes that. And it happens over and over and over again. And when he finally gets her back and puts her in that weird Marilyn Monroe dress, and he's like, we're gonna be doing it now. And she's like, oh, no. But then she's like, yes. And then he bites her on the clavicle, which is typically not where a vampire bites that I'm aware of.
Yeah, their ADR are crunching there too. It's like he's biting into an apple.
He's sucking into the bone marrow. And I was like, that's some wet ass shoulder that we got going on after that.
Maybe sometimes you need protein with your blood.
You know,
I mean, maybe we're coming to a conclusion that Jerry is not actually a very good vampire.
He's been very successful up until this point. Like, I just think he works in a specific environment, right? Like in Manhattan, he's been doing great. And then things get a little heated. The city that never sleeps is not really putting up with vampires right now. Let's cool our heels. Let's buy this podunk house in the middle of nowhere. Let's do antiques. Just you and me, another guy, will never be noticed. And then out of that, he's like, I don't know, let me bite a couple of kids, see what happens. And then all of a sudden, they got too much fucking teeth. All these people end up with too many teeth.
There's too many teeth?
I'm trying to think in order of who goes first. And aside from the 2 or 3 people who die off camera, who are drained of blood and decapitated, this movie is one of those films, and we don't like to body shame on this show. But when a movie goes out of its way to down the barrel look at a person's ass, and you're like, not much there. What am I getting out of this? I kind of wonder about the like, maybe wardrobe should look at this. This isn't helping anybody. The movie focuses on that poor woman's ass for a good 10 seconds, and you're kind of like, why? She was hot from the front. We don't need to focus on her lesser attributes. She can just walk away, and we can see his eye goes wooga wooga wooga, which I also don't believe. So Ed ends up hiding out inside of Charlie's house. So when
I like that he's wearing a yarn wig. And Charlie just yeah, hey mom, I'm home.
I was honestly like, is he a Raggedy Ann doll now?
I was gonna say
going?
exactly, but yeah, mom's wearing the Raggedy Ann wig today. I guess it's Tuesday.
That's his version of Charlie's mom, is basic Raggedy Ann. But also Peter does not notice Raggedy Ann hair and think, that's not a flesh and blood woman. So there's that. And Ed's like, listen, I may have failed the first time at your apartment, but this time I'm totes going to bite you. But he has a tendency to over celebrate. So when he pushes Peter into the hallway and he breaks a side table, he goes, I know what to do now. Transform into a dog. And he does it very quickly.
Yeah, he really gained those shape-shifting powers real quick.
Yes. Maybe there's a manual that Jerry has, or an instructional video. Like, have you just been bitten by a vampire? There's a lot to learn, and I'm here to tell you. And then like 15 minutes later, you know everything you need to know. If you're going to transform into a dog, take off all your clothes first, because getting out of pants as a dog, you're not going to be able to do it. You don't have thumbs anymore, dum-dum. He comes at Peter, and they both go over a railing, and one of the table legs ends up stabbing poor Ed through the heart. And then we get an extended reverse change-o face from dog back into human. And I think they make the most out of those transitions.
Yeah, I think it's a good scene. Although I always wonder what happens when Charlie's mom comes home from work.
You read my mind. Of course, Jenny.
I'm just picturing this like weary middle-aged woman coming home, like putting the keys down, putting her purse.
All she wants is a bubble bath and a beer.
Exactly. It's like, oh God.
Oh, fucking, there's a dead twink in my living room.
There's a dead nude boy in my living room.
I ordered a nude boy. What do they bring me? Dead nude boy.
Now I got to come up with money to fix that banister. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about this movie is it doesn't really prioritize on-camera transitions. It's not afraid to show you a version of events, show someone's reaction, and then click back and, oh, they've transformed to a different stage of it. I don't need to see it on camera. It's great. Like we saw American Werewolf in London. Not everyone needs to be that. This movie really picks and chooses its moments in terms of creature effects and gore. And Ed dying slowly over the course of 2 minutes is really quite something. You get the range of like, well, I'm glad that Peter is alive and well. And now you kind of feel the empathy for Ed, who's finally found himself all too soon. He finds himself dead.
Yeah. But at least he figured out who he was before he died.
That's right.
He is not going to heaven confused.
Right. And I think we can all agree, evil Ed innocent. He doesn't really do anything to cause him, No,
I mean we have no proof that he actually ever even like bit anybody before he got killed.
Right. No. He's just he just becomes a vampire boy for a little while.
He wants to be not bullied anymore. That's so high school. It's very sympathetic.
He just wants to be wrapped up in Jerry Dandridge's arms. And who amongst us?
I was going to say, whomst among us does not want to be?
If that's a sin, escort me to hell. What are you going to do? They go back to the house. They finally are confronted with Bill. And Peter shoots him 6 times. And he kind of becomes gas for a little while. And then after it's like, no, that doesn't kill me. Comes back up the stairs. And Charlie stabs him in the chest with a stake, which he's not a vampire, but he's full of Nickelodeon gack. Is that what he's full of?
I think he's, probably in the slow I think it's one of those things probably where Jerry bit him, but maybe didn't do the whole, now you're a vampire. Here, take my blood. Now you're a vampire too. Mm-hmm. Like, so he's kind of, in a kind of midpoint because he's obviously a supernatural being because he just melts. Right. And, again, he can also take being shot 6 times. So like, he's definitely some sort of halfway point.
Yeah. He's a half undead, as it were. And he's full of Nickelodeon gag. And then he turns into a skeleton man and reaches out for what we love on this show.
Skeleton hugs.
We love a skeleton hug. When a skeleton just reaches out and said, bring it here. Bring it in close. Bring it into my exposed rib cage. I'm just going to give you a hard one.
Let me give you a goopy hug.
At one point, he leaks maggots. There's a little bit of sawdust involved.
There's a little Patrick. There's a little sudden oatmeal syndrome.
Oh, we love sudden oatmeal syndrome. Yes. He's got a whole bunch of
again. This is an extended sequence, and I would say it's probably peak gross.
It's also kind of a shock because he's giving off Renfield vibes. So when it turns out that you need to kill him for 3 minutes, it's kind of a surprise.
You would think.
Yeah, I mean, Redfield, he just traditionally just snaps his neck and he's fine. He's out of the picture.
Yeah. But he's his own little version of a thing.
He's like a ghoul.
And they revel in showing him. I kind of remembered, and I probably transposed this because it had been a while since I'd seen this film. I think I had transposed it with Prince of Darkness, where a man just turns out to be full of bugs. And I was like, oh, He turns into a bug man. No. He's got sudden oatmeal syndrome.
He's a goop. He's a goop man.
And it turns out that green is a color underused in a lot of vampire flicks that this movie really goes for, as we're going to set ourselves apart. Because when Jerry gets sparked by the sun, he gives off green flame, which is unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's given Ghostbusters.
Well, that is ultimately the big effects link here, is that so much of this is built off the back of Ghostbusters special effects, including when Jerry turns into a skeleton himself when he's finally exposed to the full beam of sunlight. That sort of skeleton look, that's an unused Ghostbusters special effect. That at one point was going to be a version of the librarian. And Columbia said, too scary. Take that down. Go claymation. And so they went in that direction. And so they just had a crazy looking skeleton laying around like, we can use that. Let's put that in the movie. And so they did. It totally works. I had braces for far too long. I had braces for like 5 years. And so when I see somebody who's got way too many teeths, I reflexively get scared. I think I'm back in that orthodontist office. Kashana, when you see too many teeths, is that like a triggering thing? Do you feel like, oh no, or is that an effect you're like, I love that?
I don't know. I honestly, I tend to think it's neat. I think of Austin Powers. I'm like, maybe we're going to have a good time here. Our mouth is busy.
That is the one thing this movie is lacking, is 60s dance transitions. If we had more of those in between scenes, where it's just brides Jerry swinging around and kicky boots, that would have been great.
This is another one where like nobody can talk with their appliances. I love it. Everybody's talking like this.
No. People really get stranded with too many teeth. Like Chris Sarandon is trying his best. He is acting his heart out.
I can totally picture him like spending like 6 weeks in preparation, just wearing them all the time to like speak relatively clearly with them.
Yeah. And people don't do what they do in this movie, which is Amanda Bierce's character. They just put the teeth on the outside of her face and allow the entire face to be full of teeth. And
yeah, she kind of looks like she looks like a critter.
She does look like a critter. Very true. Kashana, have you watched Critters? Another horror comedy.
I have not.
Not good. But if you watch enough of them, Leonardo DiCaprio shows up. At a period in his life, he was young enough that he would have been interested in himself to date later in his life.
Yeah, a critter basically is just like these little creatures that are just like hair and teeth. And that's kind of what Amy looks like when she's in transformation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why she goes red, I can't tell you. Why she becomes a ginger?
I was gonna say she turns into Anne Margaret at one point.
Again, someone who would fit into comedy transitions.
A groovy vampire movie?
Yeah, a groovy vampire movie with a lot of hip jiggling and angular movements. Love it. It's a lot of tight pants and occasionally sleeping with Elvis. Are there any elements of Fright Night that we haven't gotten to that you need to get off your chest, Kashana?
I don't know. I was a huge fan of the crosses that actually burn your forehead. I thought those were amazing.
Yeah. And is this the movie? This is not really the vampire lore that introduces you gotta believe in it to make it work. Because that pops up in Salem's Lot, right, Gina?
Yes, because that is how he's able to overcome Father Callahan.
Yeah. Because Callahan's lost his faith, yeah. But I think This takes that little bit and makes a lot out of it, though. I really enjoy.
Yeah, I was going to say that's an element that I appreciate, and as I always say, these kind of things, I love how much like Jerry just enjoys what he does.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you make a good point that it seems like he wants to get caught, like that maybe this is a game for him, because like when he comes into Charlie's room in the first scene I said the first time he comes into Charlie's room after the mother inadvertently invites him in, he's acting like he is mad at him more for calling the police than for peeping on him. Right. I think that he kind of hoped that he would just decide to, play citizen detective, and then they could, play this little game of cat and mouse with each other. But Charlie jumped right to, plan B and just called the cops. And that wasn't, I don't know why Jerry would have expected him to, not to do that. But, it's like, dude, you were literally, you looked right at him. you're like standing there with your naked lady friend, like, hey, you're looking right. You see, you know I'm gonna do right. Let me just pull this shade down. You know what's about to happen. So yeah, I think that he is intentionally kind of luring Charlie, to play this sort of game with him.
I think this is a crackerjack film, and one that because of the right stuff and everything, because the sequel kind of disappeared. I don't think gets the glory and laurels that Lost Boys does. And not that, these movies need to compete, but I do feel like Lost Boys takes elements of this and heightens them in a different direction, and makes everything sexier. They're like, okay, well, Jerry is sexy. What if they're all kind of Jerrys? What if they're Jerry 1, 2, 3, 4? And
well, yeah, but there's like we were talking about in the Lost Boys episode, the sexiness is a little different because I think that for teenage girls at the time, such as myself, it didn't feel as dangerous to think that Kiefer Sutherland's character was attractive. Whereas, with Chris Sarandon, again, it's like, wow, this guy is like way older than me. I shouldn't be feeling this sort of way about him. And, that's just an extra element to, for a movie that, in a genre that generally targets younger audiences.
Yeah.
Oh, that age gap was terrifying. Like, I was like, this is definitely part of the horror. What are they, 20 years apart?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing that Amanda Bierce is not a particularly convincing teenager in this. Like, when she's got that, like, Avon lady saleswoman outfit when they go to the club. Like, that whole, like, she looks kind of young when she's wearing the overalls and like, the tomboyish type look at the beginning of the movie, but for some reason when she's like in her sexualized spell with Jerry, she actually dresses kind of more frumpily, which I think is kind of funny. Like, you would think she'd be in like the mini dress and like the big hair and all, but like she just actually just looks older in an almost, I don't want to say unattractive way, but like sort of an unflattering way. But I think that was a choice of costuming.
Yeah. Supposedly she retains the fake boobs that they put her in. They insisted they be put in the costume, and she holds on to them till this day, and it's her right. But here's the thing that we always go out on, and that's choose your own death venture, and where we decide of the deaths portrayed in this motion picture, if you were forced to die in one of those ways, well, which one would you choose and why? Up for bid today, we've got drained of blood and then decapitated, left somewhere. You got neck slashed, throat crushed and tossed across the dance floor, turned into a vampire, turned into a dog, staked with a table leg, fall from a second story, die crying. You got shot 6 times, staked, start leaking Nickelodeon gack, shatter into a skeleton, and then like explode. Then we got transform into a bat, spark green flame, hide in a basement, grow way too many teeth, get staked. That doesn't seem to take. But then you explode with a skeleton scream when you're exposed to fire. And then, Amanda Bierce doesn't die. I started with get love in a club, go ginger, grow too many teeth. I'd forgotten that she lives. Anyways, Kashana, you are our special guest on this program. And so I'm going to ask you to go first.
I had a real fondness for Evil Ed's shape-shifting. Because if you're going to go out, why not go out as like 3 different things? And also have a banister leg inside your chest. Like you can finally get the chance to be all those animals.
Yeah. You could have transformed into smoke. You could have done the bat thing. Like there's so many places you can go to. And you don't have it all, perfect. But at least you get to experience that. Who amongst us has had the chance to do that? Mm-hmm. I enjoy that answer. Gina, what say you?
I love Evil Ed so much that I feel like I should take his death, but it's such a prolonged and sad death that I think I will actually decline that one.
Okay.
And I'm gonna take Billy's death because that's with some panache.
True. You go talk about going through changes.
Yeah. I'm just transitioning in a number of ways.
Yeah, you're part liquid, you're part dry. Your skeleton is kind of
I'm a real science experiment. It's just going to be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, you got an explodo chest at a certain point.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of places to go. Listen, I think those are both great answers, but I am going to go with Jerry's because I would just like for one moment in my life to look that good in a sweater. It hasn't happened up until now, but if I know granted, we're all going to die someday, but before that, I look that hot in a sweater on the dance floor, I'm going for it.
They can just put that on your headstone. You looked good in a sweater.
In comparison to the other things they were going to put on that headstone, father, husband, come on, looked good in a sweater. That's a way to go out. All right, everybody. Josh Hollis does all of our artwork. Go to joshhollis.com for that sort of crazy good thing. Don't use AI. Use a real person. Pay an artist, for Christ's sake. Speaking of which, go to RevengeBodyMemphis at bandcamp.com to get this theme and all of our remixes. Go to our Patreon for extra bonus episodes where we answer your questions. We do extra movies and we do movie commentaries, which are really, really fun. Kashana, where can people hear more and read more from you out there in the World Wide Web?
I have a website. It's my first name, Kashana, period, my last name, Cauley.com. You can, if you just Google my name, I am also the only Kashana Cauley. And if you Google Kashana, 75% of the hits are me too. I am the world's easiest person to Google.
It was like even you were born to be your own IP.
I guess so.
And I cannot recommend to our audience your novel, The Survivalists, enough. I a tremendous fan of you on Twitter. And so when I saw that you had a novel come out, I'm like, I'm going to give that a whirl. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun as hell and a great read.
Well, thank you. I'm going to sneak in that I have another novel coming. And it's going to be announced very, very soon. It's a heist about the student loan industry. There is violence. There's people who are very, very broke. If you like the first one, you'll like the second one. Keep an eye out.
That sounds right up my alley. I'm into it. We'll let our audience know as soon as it drops, but I can't wait to hear more about it. Hey, Gina, where can people find out more about you on these here internets?
I write about movies and television at school.net. I have a Substack, GinaWatchesThings.substack.com, and I am on most social medias under Gina Does Things.
Do it today, people. Check it out. As for us, guess what, folks? We're out on there in the socials. But don't worry, because the body count will continue. For myself, for Gina and Kashana, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.